You are listening to the Billy D's podcast.
We are waiting just a minute for everyone to engage the live stream. Remember, you can find the Billy D's podcast on your favorite platform.
All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the live stream. As always, I'm very happy that you are here. We always wait just a moment for everyone to lock on to the live stream. Sometimes it takes a minute or two for people to refresh their app or whatever it is you are checking the program out on. We go live on Thursday nights and primarily on X and Facebook, although we are on any number of other platforms as well. So, I believe, we're on TikTok again tonight, so we'll see how that works out. I can tell you that the vast majority of the listens that we get are on the podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Good Pods is a great one. There's a number of others. We are on them all. We have a 10-year history on podcast platforms, and you can find the Billy D's podcast on any platform pretty much that you choose. We are there. We record the actual podcast in the background, so I'm recording the audio separately, and that's what you hear when you go to the podcast platforms. I'm starting that right now, so I believe we're about 2 minutes in. I will go ahead and start the podcast right now. Thank you so much for joining us. All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. I am absolutely thrilled that you are here. If you have never checked us out before, we are primarily an interview and a commentary-based podcast. Now, you can find the Billy D's podcast anywhere podcasts are found, and we always appreciate each and every one of you. Tonight, it's going to be a commentary podcast. We are live, and I got a number of things coming up here. We're going to talk a little bit about social media and Rosie O'Donnell. And also, I'm going to revisit, I talked a little bit about it last week, but we're going to revisit Casey Anthony. And I'm going to talk just a little bit about that again, because that's been a big topic on TikTok. TikTok. Say what you want about it, but there's some interesting things that happen there. I don't know what the future of that app is going to be, but it's an interesting place. And one of the reasons, why do you talk about Casey Anthony? Why do you talk about, it's not those subjects themselves that I find interesting, but it's the reaction. And that's the one thing that's really cool about X, is there is instant, real-time reaction to trending and current events. And that's something that's very interesting to me. I come from an era back when a big event happened, or when there was a political debate of some kind, there would be the call-in shows the next morning on local radio. Remember, those people call in and give their opinion about what happened. And now it's instant. It's in the palm of your hand. And these reactions aren't necessarily scientific, because it depends on who you're following and all your behavior on these platforms and so forth. But nonetheless, I find it very fascinating. And one of the topics that has been trending on TikTok lately has kind of caught my attention. And it basically deals with, I guess, boomers, but also Generation X, which I am a part of. I am a part of Generation X. And I believe it uses an 80s Madonna song, an instrumental interlude in that song. I believe it's Live to Tell. But there's a soft intro and an interlude in that song. And they have that sentimental sound, and they have someone of a certain age, usually, reflecting on, gee, I sure do miss those 80s, and I sure do miss my time, and I get the sentiment. But I got to tell you, I have never been one that is nostalgic. I believe there are times when we can look at certain parts of our past and remember them fondly, but that's where it stops. And the title of this podcast is "The Best Time of Your Life is Right Now." That's something that there's nothing stopping you. I don't care how old you are. I don't care where you're at in life. There's nothing stopping you from giving yourself what we call the best years of our lives. Those best days can be right now. You can start that right now. And I say this because the past, for one thing, when it comes to nostalgia, it's kind of like when you break up with someone, right? You have a tendency to remember the good times and you miss them. You don't as far as nostalgia goes, all the arguments and all the pain and all the suffering that went into that relationship doesn't have any nostalgic value. It's just the good memories. And we have a tendency to do that with the things in the past in general. The future hasn't happened yet. So we can't go back. We can't go back no matter how accurate your memories of what was are. You can't go back. And the future is not guaranteed. So the only thing you really have is right now. That's the time that you have to make count. And, I'm not one of these people that go on a large, positive, spiritual dissertation. That is not me. Okay, so that's not where this is going. If you're just starting to gear up for it, good or bad, that's not where I'm going with this. I am very much a realist, I guess, and that gets falsely interpreted as someone who is a skeptic, someone who is going to take down your beliefs. And that's not the case at all. If we are totally honest with ourselves, I'm not sure how many people are on Earth right now. There's 7.5 billion or something like that, some big number, right? If we really break down things, no matter what organized religion they belong to, no matter what spirituality they claim to have or not have, when it comes right down to it, we all have a version or an understanding of life that we can cope with. So what it boils down to is 7.5 billion different little unique religions. No matter what religion you have, there's aspects about it that you really like, and there's aspects of it that you don't. So it's very unique to you. And no matter what spirituality you claim to have, whether it's being in touch with the universe, I'm really intrigued by the people who mix spirituality and different scientific aspects of science and things. I find that really intriguing. And here again, I'm not at all saying it and dismissing it at all, because here again, we all have to get through life as best we can. But at the end of the day, when it comes right down to it, I have a tendency to grasp on to what is as certain as certain that as things can be. And getting back to this thing of this longing for this moment, and there's been so many of those types of trends. We longed for the 50s, we longed for the 60s. Some people say they missed the music in the 70s. There was a lifestyle. And, I get it. There's aspects of life that were a lot simpler in different times in the past. But the fact of the matter is they weren't as good as you remember them. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, because here again, the best time of your life is right now. I'm going to talk a little bit on a practical sense of why this is important, more so than just the aspect of live every day like it's your last. That's too simplistic. So I want to get into this a little bit. I was watching the news the other day, and a famous person had died. And, going back to my youth, I can tell you people like Michael Jackson, Prince, Eddie Van Halen, George Michael. I could go on here. David Bowie. These were people that were larger than life. They were absolutely just monsters of the media. They were absolute monsters of pop culture at that time. Everybody had an opinion about each and every one of the individuals that I just mentioned. They were just loaded with talent. And they were entities, I guess, that you could say were always going to be around. They're not going to go anywhere. They're too big. They're too monumental. They're institutions as much as they are people. And the fact of the matter is those people are all gone. And this speaks to how fast time really goes. And here again, let's get beyond the cliche. Think about this. There's going to come a day when a young person of today is going to be at the news or some sort of a thing in the palm of their hand that they're watching, some social media channel. And some commentator is going to come on and say, today, Taylor Swift passed away after a brief illness. Back in the 2020s, she was very popular. She had sold out concerts, and she had written any number of hit songs. Shake It Off was one of her big ones. And for a while there, she was dating a football player, the late Kelsey. And you're going to say, oh my God, Taylor Swift died. And you're going to turn to the person and say, can you believe that Taylor Swift died? And some young person sitting next to you is going to say, oh, really? Who's that? That's how quickly time goes. I'm not kidding. And that day comes around a lot sooner than you think it does. Here again, let me put this in perspective for you. Whatever you did last summer, you went on a camping trip. You had a class reunion. 4th of July fireworks were absolutely spectacular. Okay. Now, this is March 13th, 2025. You can think back to midway through 2024 easily, right? It's almost like it happened yesterday. Well, that's last year. A decade is 10 of those little segments. And if you're lucky, if you're really lucky, you're going to live 6, 7, or 8 of those 10 little sets. That's it. The only thing that makes your early days seem so long ago is that human beings just don't remember that well. So it seems like it was a long time ago. When I was in the first grade, my God, that was 40, 50 years ago. That seems like a long time because our memories don't retain that much. We remember significant events from that time, whether it be a bad accident or something like that. I can remember in my second or third grade, I can remember my teachers, but I couldn't recount a whole day in my life back then, going to school, packing lunch, and having the conversations that I had with the other students and whatever little friendships were going on and what little clashes I was having. They're long gone. We just don't retain that much detailed information. So when we reflect on the past, it's easy to say, oh, man, I was so young then. That was so long ago. No, it wasn't. It was just 10 of those sets of years that I just described that we can reflect on from last year very easily. It's just 10 of those sets. And that's all it was. Different aspects of how old the Earth is, they vary a little bit. It comes down to about 4.5 billion years. Now, that's tweaked a little bit from time to time. But just keep in mind that what that represents is 4.5 billion times around the sun. And the solar system, I'm actually kind of a science geek, the solar system all kind of developed at the same time. And what the debris as the sun was manifesting itself and the debris was coalescing around it, the planets formed. So this happened about 4.5 billion years ago. All right. If you're lucky, like I said, you're going to live to 70, 80. If you're really lucky, maybe 90 some years old. Maybe you might make it to 100, but the odds of that are very low. But keep in mind, what fraction is 90 years in comparison with 4.5 billion? Saying that life is short is not an understatement. I mean, it is an understatement. It's not a cliche. That's where I was going. Saying that life is short is not a cliche, but it is a monumental understatement. So with that in mind, when we obsess over the past, and I do feel that happens more and more. And when we start to think about the future's not guaranteed. Who knows how long we will live? You know, I mentioned about if any of us are out there that are young enough, I probably won't be one of them, but young enough to live long enough to have Taylor Swift die of old age. If we haven't turned the Earth into the planet of the apes by then. My point is the future not being guaranteed, obsessing over the future or the past. Now is all that is certain. That is it. And oftentimes people will ask me about how does spirituality relate to this? Isn't that a depressing thing to say? And I get where it's depressing, but I don't. Here again, we all put our little spin on things. We all put a little spin on things that makes life as we know it tolerable, okay, and something we can accept. And my spin on that isn't as negative at all. If you have a spirituality, and here again, I'm not necessarily a spiritual person. I'm not one of these people that's outside barking at the moon. But I respect that. I respect that as that's your beliefs, and that is what carries you through the day. I can't speak about what happens after we die. I don't know. And I hope there's something after we die. And I certainly respect anyone who has beliefs about what happens after we die. But here again, what I know for certain is that this physical life that we all have is extremely short. But my take on that isn't negative at all. My take on that is this is an opportunity. We all have a consciousness. We all have a viability. Self-awareness, that's the big word now, right? Because we're all concerned about AI, and is it going to become self-aware? And when it becomes self-aware, is it going to have the same problems that people do? It might, I don't know. But in the meantime, I can tell you that we have an awareness about our existence. And although life is extremely short, it is an opportunity. It is an opportunity to share those moments with other people. It is an opportunity to help other people enjoy their trips around the sun, as few of them as there are, as much as possible. And as far as we know, we're the only species, possibly in the universe. It is possible that we're alone. It's not impossible. But we have to accept that we could be, in terms of conscious beings, we could be it. That's another subject for another time. I don't know. I don't have a feeling one way or the other. I think it's a gigantic question mark. But it's certainly in terms of life on Earth, as far as we know, we're the only species that is uniquely and very critically aware of our own mortality from the time that we become aware as children. We know that this is going to cycle out at some point. And with that being said, it's an opportunity. And I don't know why We don't take advantage of that opportunity. My mom passed away a number of years ago. She was very elderly, on hospice and all that stuff. And one of the things that she said at the end there was, there was a news report about a war going on somewhere. And life is so incredibly short. Why are we in such a big hurry to make it even shorter? We take this brief moment that amounts to a flashbulb and we cut it up even into smaller pieces over what? So as a humanitarian and as a realist, my approach to this is the moment that we are in right now is the moment that we for ourselves can make the best times of our life. We can make the best times of our life right now because it's all that's guaranteed. That's all we have is right now. And we are also aware of other beings around us who have the same needs, the same fears, the same other things that we have. And if we took that opportunity and helped each other, showed love and concern and respect for each other, just imagine how life would be so much better. And I know this is too philosophical. There's no practical way to put this into practice. But when I see people reflecting on the past and things were better then, and it's almost like they're throwing up their hands. Now is a bad time. I wish I wasn't alive now. I should have been born in the 1800s. I should have been born back when cowboys were riding the range. And, the Old West. I would have wanted to live in Victorian times. Or I wanted to be a part of the world's greatest generation during World War II. I mean, these are all noble things. They're fun things. But it devalues the time that we're in right now. There is no reason to devalue the time that we are in right now from a practical sense. No matter what you believe happens after we die, there's nothing stopping you from making right now the best time of your life. And don't get caught up in legacies. I know a lot of people worry about, I haven't accomplished a whole lot in my life and there's not much I'm leaving behind. I'm probably one of those people. But I got to tell you, legacies are something people worry about when they're alive. I don't care whether you have kids or not. When you die, you're going to get forgotten about very quickly. Okay, probably 2 weeks on average. People might remember you the first year, the first Christmas without you or something like that. Second generation, third generation, get down to third generation. Won't give you a second thought. Your existence is going to vanish in the abyss. Think about your time. Think about how much you are enjoying life. Think about right now. And one of the ways that you can really help yourself in terms of, I just lost my screen, so bear with me here a second. One of the ways that you can really help yourself is by helping others. I've been around nonprofits and civil servants here quite a lot in the last couple of years. And there's something to be said. There's something to be said for people who come home from work and they haven't made a whole lot of money. They've done work that a lot of times is very thankless. But somehow or other, there's one success somewhere. They helped one person throughout the entire week. And that makes their moment, makes their week, that part of their now worthwhile. Helping each other is the best way to increase the value of your now. It really is. And I'm not one to sell positivity. That's not me. But from a practical sense, all I'm saying is nothing improves your now other than, for me anyway, helping other people. That is what improves your now. And your now is all you have. Your now is all that's guaranteed. There's no guarantee tomorrow. It's right now. So before we talk about, get on these trends about how great life once was, how great our society once was, let's not forget that Don't devalue the time you have now because it's very brief. It's very fleeting. Okay. And take advantage of that moment. So there's my philosophy. Is that a good word? Yeah, I'm not one to reminisce. I don't think that going back in time is necessarily a good thing to do. Okay. Let's talk about Rosie O'Donnell. And Rosie O'Donnell, as you know, here again, TikTok and social media in general. She's a big topic on X. A lot of people are tweeting about her. I understand she has said some inflammatory things. She has said some very inflammatory things. If you have a certain ideology, if you have a certain belief system, she has said a lot of things. Some of them are maybe off the wall. I don't know. But I'm going to play this little clip here of Rosie O'Donnell. And she says that she left the United States and until there's equal rights for all. And I'll give her this. I'll give her this. I'm not going to bash her. I'm being very generous. I'm being very kind today. I've had an epiphany with the reflecting on the nostalgia. I'm going to be very kind today to Rosie O'Donnell. She kept her word. So many of these celebrities and politicians, I'm leaving. Donald Trump gets elected, I'm leaving. Okay, and he gets elected twice over, and their ass is still here. And they're still complaining and pissing and moaning about how terrible things are here. She kept her word. I mean, she says, hey, I'm out of here. And I'm going to play this little clip. And what I noticed most about this is, here again, getting back to the passage of time. I remember Rosie O'Donnell with dark, long, curly hair, rosy cheeks, big smile, and time.
Although I was never someone who thought I would move to another country, that's what I decided would be the best for myself and my 12-year-old child. And here we are. Here we are. So TikTok has gotten a little bit dark and negative for me. I don't feel capable of going through the hate that comes through, and I'm trying Substack, and I think I like it there.
What I notice about that clip is it sounds like someone who is defeated. And whether you agree with her or not, for me, I guess I lean conservative most of the time. But as someone who has been directly opposed to a lot of her points of view, I don't take a lot of pleasure in this. Getting back to what I was saying, this is someone who's a human being. They're sharing the same little momentary flash of life that we all are. We're all in that same little flash. And I take no pleasure in seeing someone who looks tired and looks defeated. I don't see that. Now, here again, I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. She's convinced herself that she is unhappy with the world as it is. And here again, that gets back to what I just said. A lot of people have, in watching this unfold on social media, a lot of people say, well, why doesn't she stay and fight? And I agree with those sentiments to a point. I mean, getting back to what I said, there's nothing wrong with her taking this moment and making this the best time of her life. There's nothing wrong with her staying in the United States. And if she feels our society needs improvement, then work on it. Work with other people. Join with those other human voices. Enjoy your time. And I think what saddens me about that clip, in light of what I just talked about, is I hate to see someone defeated. Someone feeling that the best time of our society, the best time of our lives is behind us now. She made a comment that she's of a certain age and she doesn't enjoy the attention anymore. She doesn't enjoy fighting with people on social media. And I get that. I absolutely get that. I can understand how that would get you down. And I hate to see someone who feels that the best times of our life, the best times of our society is behind us. And she has a child, apparently, a 12-year-old child, something like that. And that's sad. It's sad to me. Of course, this was used as a punchline for a lot of different people. And there's nothing wrong with taking some levity in these moments. I'm going to play this clip for you. This happened at the White House. Someone was asking the Irish Prime Minister. The reporter asked, it's kind of hard to hear. The reporter's in the background, but it says, Ireland is known for very happy, fun-loving people. Why in the world would you let Rosie O'Donnell move to Ireland? And there's some back and forth. It's kind of inaudible. But at some point, the president says, "Do you know who Rosie O'Donnell is? Do you know who she is?" And the prime minister, was like kind of bewildered. And the president says, "You're better off not knowing." So this is that little clip. Here we go.
Ireland is known for very happy, fun-loving people, great attitude, many in this room right now that I've met. Why in the world would you let Rosie O'Donnell move to Ireland? I think she's going to lower your happipiness level.
That's true. Thank you. I like that question.
Mr.
Do you know
Are you expecting?
Do you know who she is? Yeah.
I'm joking.
You better off not. You better off not knowing.
President Trump, it's okay.
You're better off not knowing. That's funny. And here again, Rosie O'Donnell has dished it out. Okay, so that's part and parcel to the climate that she has played a role in as well. I'm not saying that she has been passive and had all this stuff thrown on her. She's engaged with the fray, to say the least. And it's a curious thing because, like I said, on social media, there's people who have taken sides of this. And, of course, the liberals are all about, Rosie. And the conservatives, they all, well, get her out of here. We're happier with her gone. And here again, if you're new to the program, my take is I try to give a unique perspective. And as this thing happened with me, observing things on social media with the reflection of the past becoming a trend and seeing this with Rosie O'Donnell, it's just the combination of those two things. I don't take joy in the fact that someone has been that defeated. And I disagree with her just about everything. But I'm not here to make that ride that someone's having around the sun. I'm not here to make that ride miserable. And none of us should be. No matter what side of the political spectrum you are on, that is not what we should be doing. Okay. Someone else, Casey Anthony. All right. I'm going to go. I played this clip last week on the program. I'm going to play it again just to refresh everybody's memory, so to speak, about the talking points of this. This is Casey Anthony. Let me try that again. Casey Anthony making her social media debut. Here we go.
Today is Saturday, March 1st, 2025. This is my first of probably many recordings on a series that I'm starting. I am a legal advocate. I am a researcher. I've been in the legal field since 2011. And in this capacity, I feel that it's necessary, if I'm going to continue to operate appropriately as a legal advocate, that I start to advocate for myself and also advocate for my daughter. For those of you who don't know, my name is Casey Anthony. My daughter is Kaylee Anthony. My parents are George and Cindy Anthony. This is not about them. This is not in response to anything that they have said or done. That's not to say that I'm not going to respond at some point to some of the things that they have said and done. The whole point of this is for me to begin to reintroduce myself.
Okay, she is reintroducing herself. And people in my business call that rebranding. We're rebranding your brand because your brand is no good. I kind of went down a little bit of a rabbit hole with this one. I took in an older documentary, I believe it was produced in 2017, something like that, about this case. And there's a new one now. I believe it's on Peacock. I haven't had a chance to review this one yet. Where the Truth Lies. And interestingly, these social media appearances from people like Casey Anthony seem to show up when a documentary or something like that is coming out. And it does stir up a lot of interest, like it did with a lot of folks. A lot of people on TikTok are really unhappy about the fact that she is on TikTok. As a matter of fact, what they have started doing is they've started going after her followers, which I am totally 100% against. Okay. People are upset about the fact that Casey has followers to begin with. The last time I checked, it was up around 60 or 70,000. I'm not exactly sure. You can become monetized on TikTok after you reach 10,000. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're making a lot of money. A lot depends on your views and other things. And of course, Rosie mentioned Substack. And quite frankly, Substack is something that I've considered here at the Billy D's podcast. A Billy D's Substack might be on the way. I do feel that has become, there's been so much of a rage around podcasting lately. I don't want to talk a whole lot about media right now, but there's been such a rage about podcasting. Podcasting played a pivotal role in the last election that we just had. It's a big thing. But I do believe that it is starting to settle now, just kind of like blogging did. Blogging was the hot thing there for a while, and then the cream sort of rose to the top, and it's leveled off. And I think podcasting now is kind of in the same way. You have people who have long histories with podcasting, and a lot of people who really invested a lot in it. They're sort of rising to the top, and the people that kind of jumped on it because it was a fun thing to do, was the latest thing to do. Some of these genres that some of these people have come up with for podcasters. I mean, we're going to talk about Porky's too today. This other kind of crap. All right, fine. If you like that kind of content, that's great. But I couldn't do it. A lot of those are falling by the wayside. And here again, you're having shows with lineages and now journalists in the wake of the crumbling of cable news. They're gravitating to podcasts. And a Substack is something that, especially for the written word, has become a new style. It's become a part of the new media. And I've talked about that before on this podcast. It's part of the new media now. And you can have people read your stuff on Substack for free, or you can charge a subscription, what have you. I don't know exactly what her status is, but, she's obviously out there trying to rebrand herself and possibly make money. I don't like the idea of her followers being harassed. I really don't like that at all. I know you can get real upset of who would want to follow Casey Anthony. The fact of the matter is that I follow a lot of people on social media that I do not like. I totally disagree with them, and I think that their opinions and the things that they're doing to our society are harming us. But I follow them because I need to stay up on them. I want to be aware of what's going on in the world. And, I say that as a podcaster and somebody who follows current events, but there's a lot of people out there who just want to know what's going on. They want to know what this person is saying. They want to know what is this person doing? What are they influencing us by? What are they up to? And the idea that people are following them just because they love them, that's wrong. And besides that, here again, getting back to free speech, I mentioned this in recent episodes. Free speech is about listening as much as it is speaking. We are free to listen to whoever we want. And if somebody wants to listen to Casey Anthony, that's their right. And I don't like the idea of going after her followers. There's also been a movement to try to get her banned on TikTok. And here again, I'm a free speech absolutist. I believe that she should be able to throw her opinion out there. And I think the free market should decide whether she is a success or a failure. If people listen to her, then that's great. If people don't listen to her, that's great too. I can tell you that she has threatened legal action against some of the people that are on there. And here's the facts. whether you like Casey Anthony or not. I can't imagine she has a whole lot of quote unquote fans, but male serial killers have fans. So I don't doubt that there's some people who are following her because they do like her. So whether you like her or not is kind of beside the point. The fact is, she was found not guilty by a jury of her peers. Whether she is or she isn't is beside the point. She was found not guilty in a court of law. She has not violated the terms of service of TikTok, as far as I am aware. What you just saw there, I wasn't violating the terms of service. So when it comes right down to it, she's entitled to be there. And, and getting involved in this kind of a fray, I just feel that if you really are against her having a voice, don't get involved. The more you get on there and rant and rave about her being there, the more that these petitions and other things are gathered up, it just gives these people more momentum. That's how social media works. It doesn't matter whether the responses in the comments that you're getting are good or bad. That is generating interactions. As they say, engagement. That's the word now, engagement. I had an interesting comment, like the mean tweets. You remember those where people would read all the mean tweets that they've had on TV on the late night talk shows. And I had a mean comment. Somebody disagreed with something I said. I placed these little clips on TikTok and social media all around, but this happened on TikTok. And somebody said, "You look like somebody who has a whole list of pronouns." I'm not sure where that's coming from. Maybe it's the long hair. I don't know, but I found that amusing, and I take it as a compliment. So anyway, there you go. Casey Anthony. I'd be really interested if you're on X and you do a lot of tweeting and things like that. I'm real easy to find on X at Billy D's. Real easy to find. That's the former Twitter. If you have an opinion about this, let me know. I'm against cancel culture. I'm a free speech absolutist. And she was found not guilty. She hasn't violated the terms of service of TikTok. Hey, leave her alone. If you don't want to listen to her, don't listen to her. I got to tell you, after watching that documentary, I got to tell you, that whole, between her and her dingbat parents, I don't know what happened there, but I got to tell you, that is a weird situation. If you're old enough to remember some of the details of the trial, you're old enough to remember. If you're young and maybe you were a small child in school when that trial happened, and here again, getting back to time perspective, it wasn't that long ago. It really wasn't. I believe that trial ended in 2011, if I'm correct. That's when she says she began her legal research. Yeah, boy, that's be involved in a murder trial. That's a great way to get involved with understanding the legal system. That's funny. But anyway, it wasn't that long ago. If you want to do a deep dive in this, I'm probably at some point going to check out the other documentary too, because I just find some of these bizarre cases. Here again, there's so many facets of this. It's how the defense worked. It's the defense, in her case, did a great job of throwing in reasonable doubt. I think the prosecutor, by going with premeditation, murder one, that's a lot to prove with what evidence they had, and they didn't have a whole lot. And that's a lot to prove. And I know a lot of people are being very critical about the jurors, but the fact of the matter is, proving premeditated murder, that she planned this and did it, that's a tough one with the evidence that was there. I believe the judge believes that she was putting the child down in some way, whether it be with chloroform or another drug, so that the child would sleep a long time, and then she could go out and have fun or whatever. And one of those times, the child just didn't wake up. That's probably, in my estimation, what happened. That's my best guess. I don't know. Here again, she was found not guilty. And just to be very clear, she was found not guilty. This is all speculation and opinion. And probably, I don't know whether or not somebody helped her, the parents or whatever. I don't know. I can tell you here again, I don't really have a lot of faith in the parents either. It's very, in my opinion, a very dysfunctional family. I didn't even know she had a brother. That's a whole nother part of the case. So anyway, that is going to do it for this live Thursday night. Just a reminder, please check out the Billy D's podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribe. It's free. We do not charge for subscriptions on our podcast platforms for listeners, nor do we on our social media platforms. Listeners have absolute free access. You are the reason we are here. We appreciate every single listen that we get. We have a 10-year history on all the major podcast platforms, and we're on all of them as far as I know. The Billy D's podcast, every once in a while somebody says, I heard you on such and such a platform. It's something I never even heard of, and we're there. So we have a 10-year history. Please check us out. One of the ones in the playlist that I would direct you to is Stephanie's story. Just go down through our playlist on your favorite platform. Find Stephanie's story. Amazing story. Amazing story about a woman who had her life completely turned upside down by a drunk driver. And the slap on the wrist that the drunk driver got, as is often the case, which is I simply do not understand. That is something that I just simply do not understand. Thank you so much for checking out our podcast this evening, and we will talk to you again very, very soon.
Thank you for listening to the Billy D's podcast. Follow Billy D's on X @BillyD's for updates about the program.
Do you listen to music or audiobooks on streaming devices such as Sonos or Amazon speakers? How about on your car sound system? If you use Spotify, Audible, or Amazon Music on any of these systems, you can also listen to the Billy D's podcast the same way. Billy and his team go the extra mile to make sure our podcasts sound as good or better than anything on the radio. Listening to the Billy D's podcast has never been easier. You literally just